Hello. Oh my, I'm a little off center here. Hello, friends and allies. It is me, your Tristan step back person. I already see the chat has been. I see the chat is already active. I see that the girl that you don't notice has now changed her name to been noticed. I see Shahar. I see John Sims. Oh, and Silts Games, Chrono Hellraiser. All right, so we are already off to a good start. So hello, folks. I'm the host of this strange and weird channel. And for those who, if it's their first time coming here, this is a stream I do every week before I start the stream that it's a stream I do once a week before a new video goes live. And this week, it lasts for about an hour, and I talk to you guys, hang out, we chill for a little while, and then at 2 o'clock, the new video goes live, and you guys get a new YouTube video to watch. So, what do y'alls want to talk about? It's 2:30 a.m. in Australia. Well, oh my. Sorry about that. I think something might have funky happened. What's today's video? That's a good one to start with. Well, today's video is about the wild. You had smiles during final. My video about the Syrian civil war made you smile. That is a weird one. That's okay. I understand because I shouted you out in it. So, but yeah, the video comes out this week. So this Sunday, season 2 of Westworld comes out, and I'm super excited for that because I really liked Westworld. So this week's video is about the Wild West and about myths about the Wild West. It's pretty fun. It talks about like the settler colonial system and the myth of the frontier and things like that. It's fun. It'll be fun. Somehow I don't think it's going to get the same success that the Syrian civil war quick step made on Monday, but you know, you do what you can. The funny thing about that is that video I made on Friday, and I was like, I really hope Trump doesn't bomb anybody in the video. And then like that evening, Trump bombed somebody, which was like, oh, well, shit. The other thing too that's coming up is that next week, next Sunday, so not this Sunday, but Sunday, the 29th of April, I'm going to have my friend Mike Stutchbury be my guest for Subscriber Appreciation Day, which will be super duper fun. For those who don't know, Mike Stutchbury is the historian guy who has a very popular Twitter account, and he's most well known for completely schooling Paul Joseph Watson on Twitter about his historical ignorance when it came to racial diversity in the Roman Empire. So that's going to be that's the subject of that's the guy who's coming in for the next Subscriber Appreciation Day. So that's pretty exciting. All of American history seems to be one big myth some days. This is true. America is a country that is a empire at the center of the world at the moment. And so, yes, myths about their country tend to be prevalent. This happened with the Roman Empire, too. What do you think of the idea that Russia wasn't involved in the poisoning of Skripal? It seems to be gathering prevalence, and I find it disturbing. All right. I'll answer that question, but I gotta write some of these down first because I get distracted. You have an important something to say about the second Israeli video, and what is that? Anyways, what do you think of the idea that Russia wasn't involved in the poisoning of Skripal? It seems to be gathering prevalence, and I find it disturbing. So it's difficult. Like, first of all, this is the kind of craziness that the Russian government is really good at doing, which is making you even doubt your own convictions. I don't know. I don't have the extent of the evidence of who poisoned what, but Russia is really good at a couple things. The Russian government's really good at poisoning the well, usually implying conspiracy theories or some sort of secret conspiracy to take Russia down. This shows up in a lot of Russian propaganda. This is things like they'll claim conspiracies about pretty much anything that that is contrary to their message. So they will say, for example, even if they might have been right, that the gas attacks were not done by Assad before they even had any like evidence to say anything on that. They then tried to, like, if you like follow Russia Today does have a lot of good points, but comes like dangerously close to flirting with conspiracy theories. Especially one of the ones that they used to do a lot was playing footsie with 9/11 truthers and things like that. And now, even though there's a lot of reason to believe that Russia was behind this poisoning because it fits very much in their MO, it was a Soviet-developed poison, and all reputable sources seem to be pointing in this direction. Russia is able to poison the well and make you, if not believe their side, at least doubt the truth. And this is like kind of like Russian. This is kind of how Russia does. Like that's how its international media platform works, and that's the thing that I have I noticed. Either way, even if Russia, it's not fix your color. Jeez, just button this one up. So yeah, Russia is a country that would deny, anything that made them look bad. I mean, most countries do, but you have to be skeptical. And at the moment, Occam's razor does point towards Russia still, because developing elaborate conspiracy theories is quite a thing. I'm sorry that feels a little non-committal, but there is in leftist circles. In leftist circles, it is very very full of Russian-inspired pushing of conspiracy theories and tapping into criticisms of the United States in order to push like this vitriolic anti-Americanism. Like, this is where like sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable with things like shows like Redacted Tonight make me feel a little uncomfortable, because like you can tell like they're not wrong, but also this feels very much like propaganda. Less so with Empire Files, but I feel that a little bit. And then when I found out that there's like that a lot of those people who are involved in those things are like are or were 9/11 truthers, and it's like, oh, okay, there's something funky going on here. Do you think World War III is coming, and what do you think is going to happen? I hope World War III does not happen. Well, that's an easy thing to say, right? World War III might have had its time passed. And I know that sounds crazy, But hear me out. So the two world wars, the ones that happened in the first half of the 20th century, existed because of certain levels of technology. There was an increase in the ability to collaborate and work together. There was mobilization and motorization of large amounts of troops, but there was no nuclear weapons. And so there was a period where it was really easy for the world wars to happen. Today, there's a bit too much communication. For example, World War One started. World War One became a problem because, like, World War One could have been stopped if Kaiser Wilhelm wasn't on a cruise at the time of the international relations breakdown that was going on, and the nuclear question always puts people into serious thoughts, because now anybody who wants to start a war has to consider like that they are going to be the person who ended humanity, and I think that weighs on a lot of people. So there's a situation where today it's too easy to talk, and it's too it would make you look too much like a monster to start World War III, because you know that you'd basically be condemning us to extinction. And those two things together make it very hard for a war to start. However, one of the things that I've been saying is that with people like Putin, with people like Trump, with people like Erdogan and a lot of other countries, that the world is starting to become more authoritarian over time. And that's not good, because then these considerations are put on fewer and fewer people. And when you have very few people between yourself and nuclear devastation, that's bad. That's very, very, very bad. Because when you have like an idiot like Trump who happens to be president, he can just fire a nuke if he feels like it's important, and he doesn't consider things. And so that's the problem. So I do think that if World War III were to break out, there's a couple. Oh, there's another thing too, and that is international alliances, and that is the sort of factioning of the world is a little more complicated now than it used to be. So if there was a World War III, it would, one, be about as long as the one that was mentioned in Fallout, and two, wipe out all of humanity, and would be done because of like one leader who thought that they could get away with something, but obviously couldn't. And that's yeah. Why are mustaches not popular? It's, I would probably say that mustaches aren't popular because of just trends of the time. Mustaches were popular 40 years ago, and now, and you know, in the 90s, being clean shaven was popular. And if you do that, then and so like over time, the facial hair trends will change. So, you know, in the 90s, clean shaven was popular. Now beards are popular. So, you know, mustaches or clean shaven might be the next thing. So who knows? Like most political parties seem to be pro good stuff and anti bad stuff. Are you either of those? I don't know. Am I pro good or anti bad? I'm usually pro good, but the world is such a messed up state that I usually end up acting like I'm anti bad, because just trying to stop worse things from happening seems to be the best I can hope for at this moment, which sucks. All right, next question. Hey Tristan, do you know any philosophy channels that you could collaborate with? I love the intersection of philosophy and history. I have been not talking about collaborations, but I have had started to build a rapport with Ollie from Philosophy Tube, and I'm hopefully going to have some sort of meetup with him at VidCon and talk to him for a bit. And I think that pitching a collaboration between Philosophy Tube and Step Back History would be a natural one to do. I think that we're both very similar channels that have very similar approaches to the work we're doing, and I think that that would be a really good natural collaborative work. I think that we see eye to eye on a lot of things, and I think that we could think of something pretty good. Is it also very hot in Canada? It was 27 degrees here. No, it's actually not. Last weekend, we had some really, really terrible weather, actually. It was like negative... Geez. It was like right around -1 to 0 for like most of the weekend, and we had this freezing rain all weekend, which really really made it hard to do anything last weekend. So I was stuck inside for the most part. So no, and now it's about bouncing between like +1 and -1. It's a pretty terrible time. Joseph Stalin asked, could communism rise in Russia again? I mean, it is still the opposition. The Communist Party is still the opposition party in Russia. Though I would probably say that because of the complicated past of nationalism in the Soviet Union, that it's not looking good. Russia has a lot of issues to deal with when it comes to radical right-wing white supremacy and things like that. That seem to be more on the up and up in Russia than communist, like hardcore leftist, anti-nationalist thinking. And so that's breaking. That's breaking super fast. And so honestly, I don't see a short-term solution for that. I don't see a short-term communist uprising in Russia. And I do think that if there is a socialist uprising, there are other countries where it's more likely to pop up than Russia. Russia is quickly becoming fascist at a alarming rate. And I think that that's way more likely to happen than becoming communist at this point. What's your thoughts on Cuba's new leader? Will he work for us, or is he Castro's new puppet? I don't know that much about the new Cuban leader. Could be my Friday video. I have to check how the internet is talking at the moment. You said something about the Yom Kippur War. You didn't say how much shock did Israelis people have. The entire population was in synagogues for the end of the holiday, and it was a big shock for them. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, war does that to people. Wars are bad. Didn't mention that, you know, Israel conquered part of Egypt and then just hung on to it. There's no way to make Israel look good with the things that they've done lately. Even if you are trying to be as fair and even-handed as possible, like very often there's a lot of fear and a lot of unfair coverage of what's going on. You mentioned that during the Yom Kippur War that Israelis were, you know, were in synagogues on holiday and things were like, it was really scary. Imagine how scary it is to live in a giant open-air prison where the IDF can bomb you pretty much indiscriminately at any time that they want with nobody stopping them. Because that's how it's like to be a Palestinian now. And that's bad. Do you think authoritarianism is growing again like in Europe or America? I mean, this is objectively happening. You have, for example, the United States elected Donald Trump, who is an anti-democratic president. He's trying to make the United States a more authoritarian state. And there's also Erdogan in Turkey, who's pushing. You have, for example, in France, you had the almost election of Marine Le Pen, who could very much win in a future election because their leader Emmanuel Macron is just failing miserably at being a leader. So like, there's a lot of movement towards authoritarianism happening in a lot of countries right now. Hopefully there's some hope of coming out the other end of this. For example, there's things like, for example, you do have the fact that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party in the United States is getting some traction, which is nice. I'm not sure how, we'll see how much that actually translates towards some real movement. You have the rise of Jeremy Corbyn in the United Kingdom. And, you could talk about all sorts of fun stuff in that. So, like, there's some hope, but things are going to get uglier before they get better, I think. All right. Do you know the truth about Syria? I mean, you saw all that I know. I did a video about it on Monday. Is there something I'm missing that is extremely important that you're trying to get across? Do you support the redistribution of nukes according to all from their ability to all according to their need? I mean, Great Dutchman, I would prefer if we had a world where we didn't need nuclear weapons to keep international peace. I wish peace was an end of itself. Which, like the game of Realpolitik, is a game that we all need to kind of agree to end together. But, I mean, that's a direction we should go in. Nuclear weapons is not a thing that I really want proliferating or existing at all, because they are apocalyptic level weapons that theoretically one person could use to destroy the world. And I think that is not great. What would happen if France and the UK did not carve up Ottoman Arabia after the war? You should hang on to that question because that's going to be the Alternate History Hub's next video. So just wait until he finishes that. We worked on that scenario together for quite a bit. So when it comes out on the Alternate History Hub, you'll be cool. Nukes are the most ironic peacekeeping tools ever. Michael Cohen sees documents be the end of Trump. I don't really see an end to Trump coming from these investigations that the FBI is, or the CIA or whatever are up to doing. Like, I honestly, because like he could do so many things. He could do blatantly illegal things. And the way that the Republican Party works, they're not going to actually prosecute him over anything. And the only way to get Trump to be the thing that takes down Trump is to have him do something illegal and then have the Democrats take government. So really there has to be like a big bombshell that comes out. It has to be a big bombshell that comes out like soon, like next year. That happens if the Democratic Party takes back the government. Then they might do something. All right. I lost my. There we are. Okay, let's do everybody in order so that everyone gets a turn. All right. Do you think that an anarchist uprising and overthrowing of the state is possible? Remember all the guns the bourgeoisie has? I don't see anarchism coming about because of an armed uprising. I just don't think that is a path towards a stable peace that anarchism needs to function. Really, when you do a violent uprising, you don't really support or push any sort of ideology. You need to really, when you use like revolutionary violence against people, all you really do is create a totalitarian state where violence makes more violence makes more violence. It's the way that you bring about a society has a huge impact on what happens, on what comes out of it. You know, like there's a whole lot to talk about with that. So really, if I see an anarchist society, um, I see anarchist societies coming about through a more long-term, more permanent aspect, and that is trying to set up community systems that do the things that the state should be doing but aren't, then try to replace the systems of the state with non-hierarchical, non-coercive alternatives. And hopefully, over a long enough period of time, get to a situation in which the state kind of just becomes useless, or it becomes like sort of a relic from a previous age, and then kind of collapses in a sense like that, because honestly, just overthrowing the state and trying to build everything up from scratch would not really work. It would just result in a new totalitarian state that would call itself anarchist, which happened, in a lot of countries. Are you a posadist? I don't really know. I've heard the word before, but I don't really know exactly what a posadist is, to be fair. I think it has something to do with nuclear weapons, but that's about all I know. Where are the kittens? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't see them, which means they're probably on my bed. They tend to hang out there sometimes. Do we really want Pence as president? No, we don't. Probably arguably a worse presidency. I don't know. It'd be tough. It'd be close. What do you think about mutualism and other forms of market anarchism or market socialism? Yeah, I think that market socialism could be okay. I think that it's a bit too little, too late, and it would still cause inequality. And I think that is that's not a solution. No. I think that it might be an interesting band-aid, and I would certainly prefer market socialism to market capitalism, but still, I think that it's still not going to work. Or it's not an optimal solution. It is a solution, a better solution than we have now, but it's not the one that I would want. Why does communism fail? Communist countries fail because of the nature of how they create their state. They're done through violent overthrows of the government. Then they put strong men in charge, and then when you have unrest in your country because a third of the people in your country have family members and friends that have been like personally murdered by people in your movement, then you need to keep being violent and more authoritarian to put it down. And then all of a sudden you're just redoing the same things over and over again, and you become this like super authoritarian state. And unfortunately, that's a death spiral that you can't really get out of. Trust me, I think that the closest person who tried to figure it out was Gorbachev, and it just led to everything falling apart. So really, it's not violent revolution is not the way that it's going to happen. If it's not the way that it's going to maintain a permanent, peaceful future. Um, would you marry the golden one? I mean, he's very pretty, but he's also a Nazi, so no. You can call me a bigot, but I have a strict no dating Nazis policy. Except for nowadays, when do you think America is closest to becoming a dictatorship? There's a few points that I could see. One would probably be very early on. The Adams administration, very early on, had a lot of where a lot of the things that are sort of traditions that keep America from becoming super authoritarian were not in place yet, and the Adams administration tried to become a bit more authoritarian, and like the idea space of going back to a monarchy was not out of the realm. So like that was a thing that could happen. The other option too would be the other time would be like the kind of King Democratic Party in the mid 20th century, which I'm not sure if it would have been like a authoritarian state, but it was a situation in which the Republicans were completely in disarray. And if it hadn't been for Vietnam and the increasing traction for neoliberal politics, the Democratic Party might have just become a single party state in like the 70s or the 80s. Who should Bernie Sanders pick for his VP? You know, until today, I was thinking it would have been Tulsi Gabbard, but now I'm hearing some dark stuff about her. So now I'm not sure. I do think that the VP pick for Sanders, because of his age, will be a very important choice because this is a very likely person to be president. I don't see that as a attack on Sanders. I actually think that having an old president isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that a president dying in office isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as they have a good vice president who's well informed and somebody that you're okay with choosing. That's why vice presidents are on the ticket, you know. So that's something I don't actually mind. I do think though that the vice president that he should pick will probably need to be a strategic choice in order to get the big tent of the Democratic Party involved and cross some T's. So it'll be a difficult choice, but you'll have to make a lot of people happy. Do you think that having Bernie run is a good idea? I do. I think that even if he loses again, that Bernie running still will move the conversation in a direction that's positive. I think that Sanders being in the primaries again and being at the debates and now with even probably more voice than he had in the past would be pretty good. I think that the more Sanders is in the public spotlight, the better American political discourse will get. Tristan, do you VR? I do not VR. I don't have any VR things. I think I might have a Google Cardboard sitting in a desk somewhere, sitting in a drawer, but I haven't played with it very much. But like, I don't go on like VR chat or anything like that. I don't think I have a computer good enough for that kind of thing. Jenga Tree 121. What kind of games do you play? Well, somebody did point out that I play Overwatch. I try to play Overwatch. I'm not very good at it, and my friends, like I don't have any friends who play it, and my wife doesn't really like me playing it very much. So she doesn't really like that. She doesn't really like games where for an extended period of time, I am not only tuned out, but I can't just like pause and go and do something. And she also doesn't like when I am talking to a bunch of guys on the internet for a long period of time. So those games that have those kinds of things are more of a thing I used to do when I was single. Now games that I like are more Stellaris. Stellaris is still my like favorite video game, hands down. I like playing Diablo 3 sometimes. I have it installed and I pick it up whenever I'm bored. I've considered trying to get more into some like more linear RPGs. Like I've been trying to play Pillars of Eternity, which looks really fun. I just got to like, I have to get in the mood to like just sit and play one story for a long period of time, which I rarely do because I have such a short attention span. So, you know, I would probably say overall Stellaris. And since you just said games, I'm also, if you haven't noticed on here, I'm a huge D&D nerd. I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I have a lot of, I play some other tabletop RPGs as well. So that's probably the biggest thing. I'm more into that kind of gaming than like video games. What if Japan did not bomb Pearl Harbor? That is a good question to ask Cody, because I don't know. That would take a lot. That would take a lot to think about. All right. Trump gave Obama hell for not attending Justice Antonin Scalia's funeral, yet Melania will be attending Barbara Bush's funeral alone. Hypocrisy? A little bit. Trump is no, he's no, like, Trump is no stranger to hypocrisy. And so honestly, calling Trump out for being a hypocrite is pointless because he's an open hypocrite. You just like, nobody cares. And that's the problem. There's a lot of people who think that like traditional things like that will work on him, and they don't. He's like immune to shame. So, aren't you talking to a bunch of guys on the internet? Sorry. Aren't you to a bunch of guys on the internet for a long period of time now? I mean, yeah. This is my wife's not home right now, so that's a bit better. But also, this is like step back, and this is building my channel. What my wife doesn't like is things like playing Overwatch and like making the commands and saying things and like trying to be like, oh, like move here, do this, do this. Like she finds that very distracting. And then on top of that, she doesn't particularly there's the whole Gamergate mentality. And even, when you do play games, the voice chats are always super awful. And so things like Overwatch are not great places to be in anyway. And so like, I get it. I kind of don't play Overwatch because I've kind of backed out of playing Overwatch. I tried playing it again recently, but then I was like, nah, because of the people that play Overwatch. The game's community is fucking horrible. And so I have like no desire to play Overwatch anymore. How do you find people to play tabletop games with? Well, Rob Crumb, when I first moved to Toronto, I found the D&D group that I play with now, Facebook. On Facebook, I went to a Toronto Dungeons and Dragons Facebook group, and someone said they were putting a game together, and so I joined them. So that's how I found it. Other games I play. So I run 2 D&D campaigns, and I play in 2. And one of the ones I play in is online, and I found that through the Reddit group, the subreddit LFG. One I found through Facebook. The 2 games I run, one is for a stream that was done by the same people that I met through Reddit. And then one of them is that I run is done for my wife and a bunch of her coworkers and friends, and like my wife's coworkers' fiance and her fiance's friend, and one of my friends who used to be in my other group but didn't want to play anymore with them, and he joined us. And so like that's how I like that's how I met all the groups that I have. But if you're trying to get into D&D, you should probably just go to like a Facebook group that is your city for Dungeons and Dragons. Or if there's literally nobody, just if there's nobody, then just go like just play online, like on Roll20 or on Fantasy Grounds. You'll find people. It's better in person though. So finding a group through something like Reddit's LFG subreddit, or through Facebook are the best ways, I think, because, or just going to a local game store. If there's a local game store that has, usually on Thursday nights, they'll have D&D going, and you can join up with that. And so those are the ways to find people. And if you live in a really rural area where it's really, really hard to find people, then you can play online. And actually, Rob, I actually started playing D&D when I moved to Toronto for the first time. And the reason I did it was so that I could meet new people to be my friends in Toronto, because I had just moved here. And now I have friends. Yeah. All right. I think somebody asked me what character I play too, and the character that I'm playing right now is a paladin, a goblin paladin who has taken the Oath of Redemption, which means that this goblin paladin is trying to redeem all of the people, and he actually is like pretty much a pacifist, and so I get a lot of abilities that are designed for disabling people without killing them and trying to convince people out of doing terrible things. And so my character is always trying to save people, and I think his longer thing is trying to save the goblin race, trying to redeem them in some way. That's so that's the character I'm playing. All right. No D&D today because of Independence Day. Alrighty. All right. I think that's enough of me geeking out about something that only a few people follow up on. There's 30 of you here now. That's crazy. All right. Is there even a way to call out Trump on anything at this point? Not really. The only things that he seemed to be able to be called out on and actually get in trouble for is when he does stuff that's too left-wing, which is ridiculous. No, Trump is going to have to just be defeated one step at a time. All right. Prevent ignorant voters. Should there be a quiz you have to pass before you're allowed to vote? Nope. If anything, voting should be made easier, not harder. Your opinion on anime and the anime community. All right, I have to talk. Okay, so my history with the animes. When I was a kid, when I was like, 12 or 13, when I was like 12 or 13, I think that I was really into anime, the stuff that was on TV at the time. And this is stuff that most anime people will think is crazy, or like garbage. Like it was Dragon Ball Z and it was like Gundam Wing and stuff like that when I was like, 12, 13. So this would have been like 1999, 2000, that period. But then I kind of got out of it when I went to high school and I got into other things. And I started to really not like anime. And then as I got older, like in the last 3 or 4 years, I've tried to get back into it and tried to be like, oh, like everyone says it's so good and there's so many good ones and, you just need to give them a chance. And so I tried watching some. There's been some good ones. There's been a lot of bad ones. And all of the good ones that I did watch, I watched until a point when they got bad and then I stopped watching them. Like there's never been one show where I watched it all the way through and was like, yep, that was good. I'm happy. There's been some good movies. Akira was a really good movie. I thought Akira was an amazing movie. But I tried rewatching Gundam Wing and that was not a good experience. I tried watching Attack on Titan, and it got to the point where they were way too obsessed with the compressed gas Spider-Man fighting and not so much about the actual story that was going on that I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm getting bored. And then I got to the point of... Then I tried watching, most recently, Full Metal Alchemist. and I didn't really like that very much. Then I tried watching. Then after all of that, everyone was like, "No, this is the good one. The good one is this show called Death Note." And then I tried watching Death Note, and I watched it for I think about 12 episodes. I got about 12 episodes into Death Note, and I was like, "This show is getting so convoluted and crazy that it's like they're just throwing in more random shit to keep the story going." Like I feel like it was starting to stretch because they couldn't make a satisfactory ending to the whole cat and mouse chase of the story. And so they started adding like new people with death notes and like all these things. And I'm like, okay, the show should have ended at this point, but it just keeps going. And that's where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done. And so I have lost a lot of my love for the genre over the last little bit. A higher loyalty versus David K. Johnson since even worse than you think. Better weekend read? I don't know any of those books. Sorry. Chestnut Nutshell asks, what do you think of Macron's presidency? Macron is a really ineffectual centrist leader, which means that they're super right wing, and is he's a very centrist right wing person, and he's just towing a neoliberal line now. So he's very much like Justin Trudeau, but also Macron seems to be kind of self-aggrandizing and crazy in a weird way. So who knows? What would you imagine an alternate universe of yourself as a fascist? I mean, I could see it happening. I think I talked about this with Kevin Logan once, because Kevin Logan and I have a lot in common. And I think Kevin Logan and I talked about how there's probably a point where, you know, as people who, you know, I don't look all that great. It wasn't really attractive. I didn't really get to date all that much in university or in high school or anything like that. And I was a little like, you know, I felt rejected by society, and I felt like things were, you know, emasculated, all that kind of things. And at that point, it would have been really easy for me to go down the, you know, rational skeptic. Like a few dark turns could have made me into the rational skeptic, neo-fascist person. But luckily, I didn't go that route. I became a radical feminist, and then I stopped being a radical feminist. I became an intersectional feminist and an anarchist, and you know, education really helped me in that sense. And I think that saved my soul in a lot of ways, and I became the person I am. So I think that I feel pretty good. It saved me. Whew. Wait, you said you've been playing D&D with somebody for 3 years, Shakar? Aren't you like 12? Like, doesn't that mean you've been playing D&D since you were 9? Which is crazy good. Have you ever watched the 2013 movie Stalingrad? No, I haven't. I have watched Enemy at the Gates, but not that. What genre of music do you listen to? Oh, I am all over the place, but I probably would say pop music, metal music, alternative rock, and Broadway, like musicals, are probably my favorite genres of music. Other than YouTube, do you have any other jobs? At the moment, no. I'm currently transitioning out of my PhD and into the workforce, and I'm looking for work at the moment. So I'm actually my other job right now is looking for a job. You guys have a lot of questions today. This is good. Your thoughts on Marxism-Leninism? Marxism-Leninism has a decent goal in mind, but no. I still think that Marxism and Leninism still relies too much, or Marxism, Leninism, because not Marxism. I think Marxism, Leninism relies too much on thinking that they can just murder their way into power and murder their way to peace, which is impossible. You're going to comedically vandalize a poster at your high school with a Post-it note? Go for it. Please do an honest and in-depth analysis of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Yeah, let me write that down. Lewis and Clark expedition, you say? All right. Where was I? All right. Opinions on Trudeau and the Keystone XL pipeline. Yeah, it's bad. Trudeau is a bad prime minister. Keystone XL is a terrible thing that we shouldn't do because it both is adding to our contribution towards the destruction of the planet, and it also is, yeah, it's moving towards the destruction of the planet, and it violates the integrity and sovereignty of indigenous peoples living in that region. So bad all around. Most peaceful way to diffuse fascism. Oppose it. The most peaceful way to diffuse fascism is stop it when it's small. What's your thought about socialist Zionism and the Israeli kibbutz movement? The kibbutz movement's not bad, actually. I'm sure that there's stuff I'm missing, but from what I have heard, I mean, I don't mind it. I think it's a decent idea. So in an alternate history, you'd be skeptical, step back, an anti-feminist Nazi apologist. I would definitely be some sort of cartoon animal too. Don't forget that everyone's like skeptical toaster or skeptical mouse or skeptical badger or something. Thoughts on Monsieur Z? I don't know who that is. What's today's video about? Well, Comrade Ace, because Westworld comes out this weekend, this is a video about the Wild West. It's going to be fun. Everyone's going to have fun. I'd be very, very happy to see what do you think is the most broken school and healthcare system in the world? I mean, there's lots of countries where they just don't have a school system or a healthcare system. There's a handful of countries where there's basically no systems like that. I would probably say those are the most broken because they just flat out don't have one, which makes me sad. Skeptical dish soap. Yeah, exactly. Does food and drug regulation work in an anarcho-communist society? I mean, I don't think anyone's drawn out specifically how that would work, but I mean, it doesn't mean it couldn't work. It just means no one's thought of it yet. I imagine that a non-coercive, voluntary, non-hierarchical food regulation system would be better than the one we have now, where everything is at the whim of like rich politicians who, you know, do things like talk about the acceptable amount of bug parts that can be in a chocolate bar. So, you know, I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, there's a lot of people who attack anarchists by saying, oh, you don't have a solution to literally everything, so therefore we can't do it. It's like, well, we should figure it out. We should try things. We should experiment. There might not be one answer for everybody. You know, there could be different ways we could try it, and we could learn from others who try different things and see what happens. Yeah. So, has Elon Musk accelerated the transition from combustion engines to electric cars? Yes and no. I think it was a thing that was going to happen anyway, but here's a few things. So Elon Musk has done a lot of good work for pushing forward the concept of electric cars as being a luxury item, a good idea, and the future. I think he's done a really good job at that. Unfortunately, this has kind of made this has made Elon Musk the face of pretty much the entire electric car movement. And say, like, if tomorrow Elon Musk had a heart attack and died, then a significant amount of the power behind the electric car would be gone. And that makes me really uncomfortable. Or even worse, if Tesla Motors goes bankrupt. If Tesla Motors goes bankrupt, then like a lot of the narrative pressure to make the electric car possible goes away. And I think that's really bad. Why do you think America has so many guns compared to other nations? It has to do with basically with their recalcitrant political system that has a lot of moneyed interest. And so money, people who have money have way too much influence over American public policy. And Americans don't take media literacy and media criticism. And so they're very susceptible to propaganda campaigns. And so rich, moneyed interests, like people who like making guns, have a very easy time paying politicians to not change the law, and also propagandizing the American people into thinking that this is an essential thing that has been part of our culture forever, and we can't change it. And that's not true. That's not even a truth statement. Gun control has been part of American history for all of American history. It's just that it's really easy to convince Americans that things have always been a certain way and that they're never going to change, that they shouldn't change, because Americans don't learn a lot of history. As we learned with there was a paper that came out recently that showed that 41% of Americans don't know what the Holocaust is or don't know what Auschwitz was. And like the fact that Americans don't really learn history, they don't take media criticism, they don't take media literacy very seriously, leads to a lot of Americans who are very susceptible to like pro-gun industry propaganda. So it's like a lot of people will say like it's gun culture. It goes back to like, you know, the Second Amendment and all that kind of stuff. It's like not really. No, it's a pretty new thing. Will you archive the stream? If you keep the URL, it should work. It's going to be unlisted after this. So it's going to stay up, but it's going to be unlisted. So if you can keep the link, if you want to show it to somebody, you can do that. What is your opinion on the barefoot is legal movement? Personally, I think there are dangerous agents subverting the state. I don't even know what the barefoot is like. It's just people who don't like wearing shoes. Don't like to wear shoes. Fine, I guess. Whatever. Carl Robert, what is he talking about? I think that anarchism creating a power vacuum for fascism is it's a myopic view of what a region without power would be like. It's using assumptions about the world today to make conclusions about a context that has never existed. So no, it doesn't really, it doesn't hold a lot of water for me. Yeah. Oh, we're getting close. I got like a minute before the video comes out. Who's excited? I'm excited. The Wild West video is going to come out, guys. Do I have one more question? No? All right, then I guess I'll start wrapping up. So everybody, thanks so much for coming to the stream. It has been, that is a very nasty thing to do for the British people. You guys, Thursday and Sunday is the only time I have planned for streams at the moment. I already stream a lot, but you guys try to take care of each other. Watch the new video, enjoy it. If you can, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and a share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, but to get it out to people, because word of mouth is the best tool for getting stuff out to new people. So please do that. I appreciate it so much. All right. Get you guys the link. And there you guys go. Yeah, I'll see you guys next Thursday. Bye.